Morning to everyone. So facing natin this morning. So I'll check the attendance first. After that, I'll be proceeding with chapter no, a quantitative study, quantitative research overview, and then after that, I mag-proceed ako with groupings for our presentation slash experimentation. Then after that, I'll be accommodating groups who will be doing the redefense. Okay? So ako na lang yung mag-a-approve sa inyo. And for that group, kindly revise the PowerPoint presentation na as per suggested by your panels. So hindi na kayo babalik sa kanila or kung bumalik sa kanila, okay na. Pero kung hindi pa kayo nakakabalik, ako na yung mag-check. So ako na yung mag-a-approve. So meaning to say, your performance number 2 also, ako rin yung magsasign doon. Okay? So please prepare para later dire-diretso tayo. And then just present to me your priority title. Please identify the independent variable, dependent variable, and the design that you are going to use. Are we all clear? Can I have a thumbs up button if that is clear? All right, very good. Okay, so let me just check now the attendance. Alvarez.
Present po.
Okay, thank you. Aquino.
Present po.
Arena. Arena.
po.
Okay, Baal. Baal, wala pa si Patrick. Bakani. Bakani, wala pa rin. Batan.
Present po.
Bautista. Bautista. Broquesa.
Present po.
Alan. Alan. Neris. Neris. Bunag. Kabatingan. Kabatingan. Kabigting.
Present po.
Kagiwa.
Present po.
Kailias. Capistriano.
Present po.
Castro. Crisali. Wala pa. Marion.
Present po.
Sarda.
Present po.
Cruz. Cruz.
Present po.
Aliana.
Present po.
Risa.
Present po.
Dizon.
Present po.
Eslao.
Present po.
Okay na ba, Nico? Okay na ba, Kani? Fuentes.
Present po.
Gabriel.
Present po.
Gonzales.
Present po.
Ginto.
Present po.
Mabini.
Present po.
Kilaton.
Present, sir.
Cruz. Angelica, okay? Madayag. Madayag. Wala pa, Julie. Mateo.
Good morning, sir. Present po.
Good morning, Mendoza.
Mendoza, present po, sir.
Molina.
Good morning, present po, sir.
Mojica, good morning.
Ay, mali na po yung ano.
Okay. Mojica. Okay. Thank you. Mojica, andyan na? Wala pa. Nayon.
Present po.
Oralio. Arbe.
Morning, sir. Present po.
Good morning, Pasamba.
Present po.
Paz.
Present po.
Raposas.
Present po.
Raposas. Romero.
Present po.
Santiago.
Present po.
Santiso.
Sleep deprived.
Senen.
Present po.
Tia.
Present po.
Tukong.
Present po.
Tugado. Okay na, Senen. Tugado. Wala. Valvarez.
Present po.
Andito sa Tugado. Thank you. Valye.
Present po.
Verances.
Present po.
And Yanes.
Present po.
Okay, so again, good morning to everyone. And for those who are asking kung bakit wala pang grade yung laboratory ninyo, actually meron na siya. Nandoon na, dinirect ko na siya sa grade sheet. Hindi ko na siya tinransfer muna sa what you call this, sa Canvas kasi may tinatapos ako at hindi wala na akong time para transfer siya. Pero expect within this semester, matatransfer ko yung grade ninyo o yung scores ninyo doon sa may prelim laboratory. Okay? Expect this midterm. So may tinatapos lang ako kasi we'll be having a accreditation again and then may pinapasubmit si Dr. Bliss so that thing will be on Thursday. That's 31, no? Tomorrow. Okay, so may tatapusin lang ako. Then kapag medyo maluwag na yung type ko, we'll transfer your score doon sa Canvas. So expect this midterm, maybe this week or next week, ita-transfer ko yung grade ninyo o yung score ninyo rather. Okay? So then one more thing, hindi naman included sa nakita ninyong grade ngayong prelim, yung laboratory. So again, if there are students who are asking bakit ganito, again, that's laboratory grade. And to tell you honestly, yung mga nakakuha ng 70, it's not actually 70 eh. So possible yan lower than 70 pa. Pero ang ginawa kong baseline is 70. Okay? May mga nakakuha ng 58, 60 plus, 40 plus, pero ginawa kong baseline is 70. So automatically, kapag ka ang grade mo, na ang lumabas doon sa lecture grade mo is lower than 70, so ang ginagawa ko, baseline ko is 70. Okay? But there are students naman na naka-receive ng 94, merong naka-94, ayun yung highest ko, though wala ata sa section na ito, sa dash 3 ata yun. May 92, may 90, may 91, may 87. Again, that's your lecture grade only. That's a lecture only. Wala pa dyan yung laboratory. So kapag ka pinasok dyan yung laboratory, malamang naman at sure naman ako na mas mataas yung grade ninyo. So possible pumatak siya ng 80 plus 90. Okay? It's just that hindi lang kasi siya nag-reflect kapag ka-prelim. Gawa na kailangan muna ng scores na kailangan kong ilagay kay midterm laboratory and finals laboratory. Okay? So I hope that is clear. Can I have a thumbs up button if that is clear? All right. Again, expect niyo yan kapag may na-add na laboratory grade, mas mataas dyan yung grade ninyo. Okay? Kasi malaki yung hatak ng laboratory kung tutuusin. Though 40% lang siya and 60% yung laboratory, still 40% malakas yung hatak niya. Kaya dapat kapag may laboratory yung subject, bihira talaga dapat babagsak ang student, especially if matataas yung kanyang laboratory. But if the students are not willing, of course, to pass kasi hindi nagsasabit ng mga requirements or hindi nagko-comply doon, of course, deserve niya naman makakuha ng fail grade. So sa akin, may bumabagsak ba sa laboratory? Based on my experience, yes. Meron pa rin naman, even though na active siya, lagi pumapasok. Pero kasi yung scores niya ng lecture ay hindi ganun kataasan. Parang laging failed. Pero pagka ganyan naman is kinakausap ko yung student. Okay? Na of course, there's no chance para maipasa siya. And kinausap ko naman siya midterm pa lang na kailangan niyang hatakin yon by finals. Ay hindi niya nagawa. So, tinanggap niya naman yon and then in-advise ko naman siya na maaga. Okay? So, hindi lang naman isa yon, dalawa ata or tatlo. May bumabagsak talaga dito kahit sabihin mong lagi kang pumapasok. Again, if hindi mo na-meet yung qualification to pass. And I hope that is clear. We can now proceed now to our lecture for experimental or quantitative overview. Okay? Sige. So still the same. If you guys have any questions, pwede kayong mag-type, pwede kayong mag-raise hand button, or if there are things that you would like to say or ask, you may raise hand. You may click the raise hand button and then I'll allow you to turn on your audio. So next week, expect that we'll start with the presentation psychophysics topic together with experimentation. So later we'll be doing groupings na. No, not groupings, pero arrangement of the groups kung sino yung mauuna at hanggang dulo magpe-present. Okay? So let me just give you an overview of quantitative research. Next week, expect a quiz for this topic. Okay? Naka-prepare yung quiz dito by next week. So, let me just give you again an overview of what quantitative research is. So let's have an introduction. When we say research, according to its definition, is an area that is commonly misunderstood, mahirap, nakakapagod, hindi alam kung ano ilalagay sa specific part of research, ano ilalagay sa research design, paano siya ilalagay, ano ang isusulat ko sa statement of the problem, naka-question mark ba, interrogative or declarative, ano ilalagay ko sa our variable, how can I identify those variables, and then how to get an RRL. There are a lot actually of complications kapag ka nag-research tayo But again, nami-misunderstood siya because of the term mahirap. Wala namang madaling subject, wala namang madaling activity. It's just that kapag ka ang estudyante is knowledgeable or ang tao is knowledgeable on how to conduct research, baka ma-lessen yung misunderstanding nila when it comes to research. Kasi nga, like what I have said no first day natin, when we see research, if iikot mo yung mata mo sa bahay ninyo ngayon o doon sa location kung nasaan ka ngayon, everything is a product of research. The semento, the upuan, hindi naman niya magiging apat yung tungkod kung hindi sila nagkaroon ng experimentation na kapag dalawa lang is maaari kang matumba. Your gadget is a product of research. Bakit ka humihinga? Science can explain that. Bakit may bulkan? Bakit pumuputok yung bulkan? Bakit may ulan? And everything. Everything is a product of research. That's the reason kung bakit sinasabi dito, most of people actually misunderstood research. But research is an indispensable component of academic and industry practices. When we see indispensable, important component of academic and industry practices. So napaka-importante pala niya, no? Kahit na maraming tao yung may ayaw ng research, kahit yung maraming tao na hindi ma-appreciate yung research, but still, according to our definition, it is very important. Important because it helps us to make our lives easier through technology. Gusto mong umorder ng McDo, pero malayo yung place ng McDo sa inyo. What you can do, you may just download application like for example, Grab Food, o kaya naman Food Panda. It's a research. Hindi naman magiging application yan unless merong tao nagkakonduct or nagpo-propose ng ganyang application. Yung application naman na nilalagay natin, it's a research. Yung ginagawa ninyo sa aking subject, title defense, that's still a research in an experimentation. That's a trial and error. Pag papasa, continue. Pag hindi papasa, edi uulit tayo. It's an experimentation. Bahala na. Yung term na bahala na is a way for us to know that you will be doing experimentation type. That's a trial and error. Parang ginagawa mo ngayon sa course mo. Pamasok ka ng first year. You are not sure kung talaga bang mapapasa mo yung subject or talaga ma-enjoy mo yung program or yung course. Pero sige, subukan natin. Kapag ka nandoon na ako at hindi ko na-enjoy, what you will do, you will transfer. You will shift. That's a trial and error and it's a research. It's experimentation type. So meaning to say, napaka-importante ng research. However, people ay hindi na-appreciate ang research. When it comes to academic, again, remember, you need to evaluate us as your faculty, our performances inside your classroom. So that is still type of research. Kasi ang gagawin nyo ngayon, i-rate nyo kami, isasubmit nyo ngayon, pag sinubmit ninyo, the guidance office will now calculate it. They will analyze the data. After analyzing the data, they will come up with a conclusion. And then, isusulat din nila even your open-ended answers, which yung mga suggestions, comments. And then, they will transfer it to, they will send it to Dr. Bliso. Si Dr. Bliso, ang gagawin niya actually, binabasa niya yung isa-isa. Okay? Binabasa niya yung isa-isa, and then i-check niya yung pinaka-rating namin overall. Kapag kami nakita siyang average ka, MI ka, malamang sa malamang is maka-call out ka. Baka magkaroon pa kayo ng one-on-one session with Dr. Bliso because according to her, hindi acceptable ang average level. Kailangan makakuha ka ng above average or outstanding every time na nagkakaroon ng evaluation. Because in the first place, hinyar ka niya kasi may tiwala siya, you can teach. So if that's the case, makikita ka agad what are the things that we can improve. So meaning to say, research can help us to improve our performances. Pag nasa loob ka ng kumpanya, it's industry practices. Pag nasa loob ka ng kumpanya, there is always a performance appraisal or assessment. Some companies, especially BPO, meron silang meron silang monthly performance appraisal na binibigay ng QA. Okay? Uy, ganito ngayon yung iyong performance level. Wait lang ha, medyo may narinig kasi ako sa call mo eh. Ang sabi mo sa call mo, ganito. Again, bawal sabihin yon and others. Okay? And then actually kinakalculate nila yon. Meron silang grading din doon. And even yung mga hindi working in a BPO setting, hindi lang naman sa BPO setting ang performance appraisal, sa lahat ng kumpanya yon. Naka-provisionary contract ka. When we say provisionary contract, papasok ka sa kumpanya na kung saan ikaw ay 6 months lang or 4 months. It depends, no? Kasi there are companies na kung saan ang provisionary nila is 4 months. And then yung iba naman 6 months. After 4 months, there are companies na kung saan nagkakonduct na performance appraisal. Just to inform the employee whether to extend his or her contract or gagawin siyang regular or hindi na. Bakit kinakonduct yun after 4 months or 5 months? Just to inform the employee, no? Na kapag hindi man siya ma-extend na, at least there is a time for an employee to look for another company na papasukan. Kaya doon siya madalas kinakonduct. Around 4 months or 5 months. I've been an HR before. No, that's why somehow I am familiar. At the same time, pag-aaralan niyo yung ka-industrial psychology. No? So nandoon yung different trainings and others. So kapag nagkakonduct tayo ng trainings, makikita ninyo nandoon yung evaluation sa dulo. Ang training ay kinakonduct hindi lang sa school, but even sa company. Okay? So makikita ninyo meron laging mga numeric in nature doon. Kapag ka ngayon, gagawin nila, i-check nila ngayon ano yung mataas, ano yung performance, and others. So, ayun yung magiging basis nila for the next session or for the next training na ikakonduct nila. So, meaning to say, napaka-importante pala talaga ng research. And even sabihin natin, simple research yan. Like for example, survey. Survey is a simple one. Ayun yung pinakamadali sa lahat. Still, that is important. No? Napaka-importante niya kasi nga it helps us to be aware doon sa mga bagay na kailangan nating malaman around sa atin. So that is research. So what are now the characteristics of quantitative research? Again, there are different approaches. When we say approaches, that's qualitative, who usually deals with words. We have quantitative, you have to deal with numeric in nature. And we have mixed method, that's the combination of qualitative and quantitative. Mixed method can be sequential explanatory, meaning to say, quantitative first, after that, qualitative. Sequential exploratory, pag naman sequential exploratory, qualitative first, then quantitative. Pwede din naman convergent or parallel mixed method. Pag convergent or parallel mixed method, meaning to say you can collect data from qualitative and quantitative at the same time. Okay? So those are approaches. But we'll be dealing right now by quantitative approach only. So now, let us check what are the characteristics of quantitative approach. But before that, may I know, guys, if you have any questions or anything that you would like to clarify? If none, can I have a thumbs up button? All right. Very good. Thank you. Sige. Let us continue. Let's have the first bullet. Researcher has a clearly defined research question to which objective answers are sought. Remember, I've mentioned that your title must be connected to your objective. So meaning to say, kung ano ang variable na nakikita sa title, kailangan included siya sa ating objective. And remember, sabi ko nga sa inyo, na-share ko sa inyo, everything that I'll be presenting my statement of the problem. These are my lines. Ang sabi ko lagi, the statement of the problem are formulated to answer or to reach the objective of the study. Kasi para ma-reach natin ang ating objective na nakalagay sa chapter 1, we'll be needing a statement of the problem. And this statement of the problem will help us to answer or reach or to achieve rather our objective. So meaning to say, both of them, objective and statement of the problem, must be aligned to each other. So, advisable, if meron kang dalawang objective, you also have two statement of the problem. Kung meron kang tatlong objective, as much as possible, meron ka ring tatlong statement of the problem. So, meaning to say, one statement of the problem will answer or will achieve one objective. Second statement of the problem will achieve the second objective. The third statement of the problem will achieve the third objective. Are we all clear? Can I have a thumbs up button if that is clear? Very good. So, meaning to say, kailangan aligned siya. It should be defined clearly sa ating paper. Next, project can be used to generalize concept more widely compared to qualitative. Kasi qualitative, low number of participants. So like for example, is for narrative study, you can have at least 4 to 5 participants or 3 to 5 participants rather, that's enough. In case study, 1 to 3 participants, that's enough. If you will be doing phenomenological study, IPA and others, 6 to 9 participants are enough. If you will be doing grounded theory, 32 participants, but you can use at least 15 participants, that's enough. So makikita mo, ang konti ng participants pero pinapaniwalaan ka agad siya. Kaya nga according to our qualitative study, kapag ka-qualitative ang iyong research, hindi siya nagbibigay ng strong inferences. When we say inferences, conclusion. Kasi nga, verbally binabanggit ng participants kung ano ang sagot nila. Pero iilan lamang sila. On the other hand, kapag nagkakonduct tayo ng quantitative study, ang kailangan natin dito, kung makikita ninyo sa third to the last bullet, the results are based on larger samples. So meaning to say, we'll be needing large number of samples. When we see samples here, subjects or the participants. Okay? Para ma-identify natin how many subjects, how many participants will be needing for the study, we need to compute it. So we need to get the estimated number of population para makuha natin yung ating sample. So usually ang sample ay naglalas siya, like for example, kapag meron kang population na 69,000, usually maglalas yan ng around 400 participants, 500 participants, 300 participants. Compare with 1 kay qualitative, compare with 6 kay qualitative. 400 participants versus 9 participants, 400 participants versus 15 participants, sino papaniwalaan mo? Yung marami nagsabi or yung konti nagsabi? That's the reason kung bakit ang quantitative ay objective, kasi mas nagbibigay siya ng strong inferences compared with qualitative. So ang sabi dyan, project can be used to generalize concept more widely. It can be, we can predict also future results. Okay? Or investigate causal relationship which the experimental psychology or experimental designs. So all aspects of study are carefully designed before data is collected. Why it is very important? In the first place, in quantitative, ang pinakamahalaga ay ang methodology. Pagka nagkamali ka ng isang procedure lang, automatically, maaaring ma-scratch ang paper or maaaring mag 100% revision ka. Okay? Magkamali ka lang ng isang process doon sa pagkakandak mo ng experiment, malaki yung chance na kung saan magiging error yon. At kapag mas mataas ang error, mas mababa hindi siya reliable. Pero kapag mas mababa ang error, mas reliable ang ating research. Always remember that. And again, error is always part of our research. Whether we like it or not, error is always there. Error is not actually invited in our research, but whether we like it or not, they used to join in our research most of the time. And that is now our concern. Kaya even sa formula na pagkuha natin ng sample, there is an error. we have to get the 5% error, margin of error, or that's 0.05 margin of error, or the 95% level of confidence. So 95% level of confidence, where are the 5%? That's the question now. And that is the error. Because we are trying to, because that's our assumption as a researcher na kung saan merong error na papasok. At kapag ka merong error na papasok, edi i-anticipate na natin siya, isama na natin siya sa ating formula. Okay? So laging kasama ang error sa ating formula pag kinukuha natin ang sample. So the data is usually gathered using structured research instrument. Pag sinabi natin structured, as much as possible, there are options. There are options na kung saan mamimili na lang doon yung participants sa option. Okay? Mamimili na lang sila doon sa option. I'll give you one example of quantitative study. Okay? Lang. So this is a psychological test by my students in psychological assessment class. Ito ay last year, but currently ngayon ay magi-start na ulit yung mga third year students natin, yung mga handle ko sa psychological assessment ng pag-formulate ng psychological test. Okay? So this is a formulated psychological test by our fourth year. So this is the title of their test, Filipino Frontliners COVID-19 Anxiety Inventory. So they called it FCAI. Okay, that's FCAI, or in Tagalog, kasi Tagalog yung kanilang, what you call this? Yung kanilang pinaka-test. So this is the overview. Actually, ginagamit itong test nila kasi ito ay validated na eh. The same time, nag-run na ito with statistics and item analysis. Kaya may mga schools na kinukuha yung kanilang paper para yung kanilang test para gamitin sa research. Pwede nang gamitin to for research. So these are the authors. Siya ay naka-TOP style, yung pag-discuss ng author. So we have first the principal, the leader of the group, which Mr. Bacorin, your panel member. Ayan. Actually, I'm not sure, no, but I believe M is running for SUMA. Okay. Siya, if ever, no, he will be the first student na magiging summa cum laude. Kasi wala pa nagsusuma in the history of Fatima. Ganyan kahirap mag-qualify sa cum laude and magna cum laude ng Fatima. May mga nagmamanya cum laude, pero wala pa nagsusuma cum laude sa Fatima. Okay? So just in case si M, he will be the first student na, or he will be the first graduate na maa-awardan as summa cum laude. But I'm not sure kasi if qualified pa or hindi. Okay? So he is the principal investigator or the leader of the group. Second, Miss Carrion. Yan. Third, ito ay yung alpha group eh. Alpha group tong group na to eh. Pag ito ay yung mga magkakagrupo, expect mo yung paper nila solid. Okay? So sa kanila din yung madalas ipinaglalaban, yung kanilang paper. Yan. Then after that, of course, the history ng pagde-develop ng test. Actually, gagawin nyo ito kapag kayo ay nag-research. Ay, kapag kayo nag-research, yes. Pag gagamit kayo ng test. No? So, nandiyan yung history, kung paano nila dinevelop yung test. Andiyan din yung theoretical foundation. But even in our research, remember, we have the theoretical framework. In developing psychological test, there is always a theoretical foundation. Kasi doon ka magbabase ng definition ng iyong variables. Okay? So we have the test domain. So meron silang semantic. Ito yung kanilang sinusubukan i-measure. Semantic domain, semantic, cognitive domain, and behavioral domain. Of course, meron silang reliability. This is a statistics. I asked them to use Cronbach alpha because we'll be focusing on the internal consistency of the items. Pag internal consistency ang kinukuha natin sa items, we'll be using Cronbach alpha. Si Cronbach alpha, ilalabas niya whether to accept the item, retain the item, reject the item, or revise the item. Ganun yung sa Cronbach alpha. So based on the result, so it has 0.88 0.6 ay 0.88 Cronbach alpha in statistics. Kukunin natin ang reliability index ito. This is a good research or this is a good report. This is a good one. Okay? So, dito ang pagkakonduct ng research. Okay? So, this is the one-on-one. Meron silang pilot testing. Sila yung mga nagpapaikot at meron namang final testing. Dalawa ang kailangan nilang i-run, pilot and final testing. Pagka nakapag-run na sila, validated lahat ng questions nila ng experts. Validated ng kanilang experts ang kanilang paper. So these are now the questions. Makikita ninyo, ayan yung questions. Ito yung pinaka-test. So makikita ninyo, ako ay hindi nakakaramdam ng mabilis na pagtibok ng puso tuwing naiisip ko ang peligro dulot ng COVID-19. Pag sinagot niya dito is oo, pwedeng bigyan mo yan ng 1. Pag sinagot niya ay hindi, pwedeng 0. So meaning to say, sa per item na to ay may tamang sagot na kung saan nag-identify kung anong domain yun pumapasok. Okay? So, paano natin masasabi na kung saan structured test, kailangan meron siyang option. As much as possible, meron siyang option. Okay? Pag structured. Pag unstructured, open-ended question. Pagka-structured test, usually closed-ended question. Pag semi-structured, nandoon yung combination ng structured saka unstructured. Meaning to say, you may use closed-ended question with follow-up why. And that is now the open-ended question. Okay? So dito kay quantitative, ang focus lang natin is structured test. So meaning to say, dapat kahit paano is close-ended ang question na i-formulate natin. Okay? Kapag katama siya sa item 1, what you need to do is to put 1. Pagka mali siya, 0. So that's the item at nandito yung tamang sagot sa baba. Okay? That's the correct answer. So kapag i-input mo kay SPSS yan, kailangan kung ano yung sagot nila. 1, 1, 1 o 0 ba? 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. At mag-proceed yun at para ma-identify natin, bakit may TTO na pumasok? May ITM na pumapasok. Okay? So para ma-identify natin sa dulo kung ano ba ang kanyang interpretation. So sila din yung gumawa ng interpretation kasi sila yung test developer. So this is now the interpretation. Ito yung sa semantic, kapag ganito yung pagka nag-fall under siya with the rank 1, ito yung kanyang interpretation, rank 2, rank 3. Meron din sila sa cognitive at meron din sila sa behavioral. Itong mga interpretation na ito ay naka-base ito doon sa kanilang foundation. Of course, meron din silang reminder na itong test na ito ay hindi gagamitin for diagnosis. Okay? So ganun yung ginagawa natin kapag nag-develop tayo ng test. At pag yung test ay ginagamit natin sa research. If that is quantitative, as much as possible, we have to formulate question na kung saan naka-structured test. Okay? So, mahirap to gawin, pero nakaya naman ng mga estudyante at for sure naman, soon, ay makakaya din ninyo. Kindly advise your classmates sa GC, sino yung pumapasok na naka BSITM? Pakisabi ay mag-change ng name. Thank you. Okay. So, ayan yung sinasabi natin dito sa sa bullet number 4. Yung data, as much as possible, i-collect natin siya with structured instrument. Kasi it will produce numeric in nature. Kapag gagamit ka ng unstructured test, hindi siya mag-produce ng numeric in nature kasi yung answer will be elaborated. So meaning to say, it will fall under kanino? Kay qualitative. Kasi ang i-analyze mo doon ay words. Can I have a thumbs up button if that is clear? Okay? Very good. Okay? So now, as computer software to collect numeric in nature. So when it comes to software, of course, we can use tools. How are we going to analyze the data? So we have different tools, like for example, SPSS. Another good example is Jamovia. And of course, you have to identify what specific statistical treatment you are going to use. Katulad nung kanina, ang ginamit namin is sa pag-i-stat nung kanilang paper, ng kanilang test, ay Cronbach Alpha. Okay? Cronbach Alpha is for internal consistency. For quantitative experimental, usually ang ginagamit natin ay t-test or ANUVA. But you have to check ano yung mas appropriate gamitin if ganito yung data na kinukuha natin. Kasi nakadepende pa rin yun sa skills na kinukuha natin. If nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. Nakadepende pa rin siya. Okay? Kapag ka naman usually gumagamit tayo ng mga comparative research o kaya naman ng correlational research, makikita nyo doon we can use like for example Pearson or Spearman Rho. Okay? So ayun usually na ginagamit natin. Kapag ka naman survey ang gamit natin, actually yung May's percentage lang. Pwede yung sa may nasa Excel lang tapos yung formula gagamitin mo. Or pwede din naman i-undergo mo siya with SPSS or Geomovie, you'll be using descriptive statistics. Kasi it will just describe the table or the result rather. So ganun lang siya kadali. Medyo mahihirapan lang tayo in terms of identifying specific stat treatment that we are going to use in our study. But for quantitative, ang gagamitin nating tool is SPSS, Geomovie, or other statistical tool. Pagdating kay qualitative, may ginagamit din naman tayong tool. Okay? Like for example, in qualitative, ang gamit nating tool is Ennivo. Okay? I'm not sure if narinig na ninyo ito. Si Ennivo. Ayun usually yung gamit nating tool kapag ka-qualitative, si Ennivo. So ang gagawin dyan, yung interview ninyo, transcripted interview ninyo with your participants, ang gagawin mo, ipapasok mo doon sa software ng Ennivo at si Ennivo, siya ay yung mag-a-analyze ng data. Siya yung magbibigay ng teams sa iyo. Marami siyang ipoproduce na teams, pero i-check mo ngayon ano yung mga teams na kung saan medyo magkakasimilar. Pagsamasamahin mo silang lahat. And then mag-come up ka sa iisang category. That's it. Ganun yung ginagawa. But ako, I don't use Ennivo kasi manual ako kapag nagka-qualitative study ako. So talagang inaalis ko yung data one-on-one. Ginagamitan ko siya ng matinding oras para ma-analyze yung data na maayos. Okay? Pero there is also tool kay qualitative, hindi lang para kay quantitative. So again, the results are based on larger number sample sizes that are representative of the population. I've mentioned this. Pag sinabi nating big letter N, remember, that's the population. Pag sinabi natin small letter n, that's sample. May lumabas na survey. Yesterday ko ata nabasahin or nung isang araw pa. Nasa isang araw ata yun, nung Sunday ata yun. Habang nasa biyahe kami, papunta ako nung Benguet. And then nakita ko, may nabasa ako sa social media na survey. N, small letter n, ang nakasulat is equal to 300. Meaning to say, they use 300 sample for the survey. Meron din namang isa ay N is equal to 30 participants. Okay? Then survey din yon. 30. Ang masyadong mababa ang 30 at masyadong mababa ang 300, no? For the population, and then ang gagawin nila ay sasabihin nila at babanggitin nila, the result can be generalized to the whole population. First of all, i-check muna natin, no? Sino ba ang kinuha na natin ng data? Kasi before, ang ginawa ngayon ng Pulse Asia, nagsalita sila Pulse Asia or SWS survey, naglabas sila ng data ngayon at sinabi nila na they interviewed class people who are under class class D and E. Class D and E. And then, sinabi nila, the result can be generalized to the whole population. If in the first place, D and E lang yung gamit nila at hindi sila kumuha ng participants from A, B, and C, so meaning to say, you cannot generalize the answer to the whole population of the Philippines. Instead, pwede mo siyang gamitin lang at i-generalize yon para sa mga tao na kung saan nagpo-fall under with classes D and E. Ganun yung paggamit natin. They use actually different or multiple sampling here. First, they use stratified sampling. Wherein in stratified, strata, that's a group. Okay? That's a group of people. That's a group and then kumuha sila na representative from the group. Okay? So kinuha muna nila how many population ang meron sa grupo. And then after nun, ay kumuha sila ng sample based on the computation ng sample. So parang ganito ang ginagawa ng SWS, no? I have a whole population of second year students, BS Psychology. And knowing na merong -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So gagamit ako ngayon ng stratified sampling. Stratified random sampling. Okay? So ngayon, nag-compute ako using stratified formula at may lumabas na meron akong population na 250. Okay? May population ako na 250. Nag-compute ako ngayon kung ilan na kukunin kong sample from the 250. Ang lumabas, like for example, is 135. Kinompute ko ulit, ilan ang kukunin kong participant from section 1, from section 2, from section 3, from section 4, from section 5. May specific computation for that. Kasi doon, we have to consider the number of population per each section. Pero dapat, ang magtototal yung 5 section na yon, yung kukunin mo, 135. Ganun yung mangyayari doon. Tapos, pwede mo na ngayon i-generalize yung result sa whole second year students. Kasi nga, nandoon na siya. But the problem is that, according to SWS, ang gamit lang nila ay D and E. So meaning to say, you cannot generalize the result kay A, B, and C. Kasi hindi sila kumuha ng participants from the lowest, from the upper classes. Kinuha lang nila ay from D and E. So ganun yung pagkuha natin ng research. Okay? Usually gumagamit tayo ng stratified or ng ganyang formula kapag ka ang study natin ay quantitative. That's under non-probability sampling. No, probability sampling. Okay? That's probability sampling. Non-probability sampling, kapag ka naman ang ating research ay qualitative. Usually ay yung gamit natin. Nagturo na ba ako dito ng sampling? Nagturo na ba ako ng sampling dito? Guys, nagturo na ba ako ng sampling sa inyo? Hindi ko matandaan. Hindi pa. Pero may overview kayo ng sampling sa PsychStat. Sa PsychStat, may overview kayo ng sampling? Meron. Okay. Natatandaan pa naman yung mga pinagsasabi ko? Nag-compute din kayo ng sample kay PsychStat? Nag-compute kayo ng sample kay PsychStat? Ano yung gamit na formula niyo sa pagko-compute? Slovin's formula or other formulas? The PPCA formula? Hindi niyo matandaan? Okay. Na-discuss ang probability and non-probability. Walang sumasagot. Mukhang walang matandaan. Sige, next week before we proceed with the presentation of first group, so yung face spacing natin by next week, quiz first, 30 minutes. So we'll start 8 a.m., 8:10 rather. So 8:10, I'll be discussing quickly the sampling. Just give me at least 20 minutes to discuss the sampling para lang ma-refresh tayo. Then after that, mag-proceed tayo with the first presentation, which is psychophysics topic. Are we clear with that one? Can I have a thumbs up button if that is clear? Okay. Para magkaroon kayo ng refreshment, kasi gagamitin nyo yun kay field methods, baka ako ay madali ni Doc Tabs. So baka pag tinatanong kayo ay wala kayong alam pagdating doon. Kailangan nating mag-refresh ha. Doon may alam kayo pero i-refresh natin siya by next week. Ha? Okay? So, that's base kung bakit kailangan natin ng larger sample kasi mas marami nagsabi, mas kapanipaniwala. Mas konti ang nagsabi, mas hindi kapanipaniwala. Kaya uulitin ko, in qualitative, hindi strong ang inferences or yung conclusion kasi mas konti ang nagsabi. Compare with quantitative, objective yung way natin kasi nakastructure din siya at mas marami yung population, mas kapanipaniwala. Okay? Data in the form of numbers and statistics often arranged in table, charts, figures, or other non-textual forms. So makikita nyo dito, this is our chapter 4. Madalas na ginagawa natin. And again, kay chapter 4, what you need to do is to just describe the table. Just describe the table. Chapter 5, you need to discuss now the results from the chart or from the chapter 4. Okay? Ganun yung ginagawa natin. The research study can usually be replicated or repeated given its high reliability. We discussed this kasi nga we need to update our knowledge. That's the reason why we can actually replicate or repeat the specific topic. At the same time, we have also to check if consistent ba yung results or hindi ng specific topic. Kasi if hindi, so we can have another conclusion for that. Okay? So are we clear with this one? Characteristics of a good quantitative approach. Can you have a thumbs up button if everything is clear for this one? May I know, guys, if you have any questions or anything that you want to ask? Questions? Are sure? Walang tanong? All right. So now, let's have the process of research. Let's have the process of research. So, kapag sinasabi nating research process, always remember the term content. Research process, always remember the term content. And in content, it starts with conceptualization, design, empirical, analytical, and dissemination. Now, let's start with conceptualization. For conceptualization, ang sabi lang naman dito, just identify the topic. When we say topic, these are somehow branches of psychology. Saan ka interesado? Usually, it starts with our curiosity. Let me just share to you my reason of conducting sports psychology. First of all, again, I myself is a varsity player or a player. Okay? A player who used to play and compete. No? And napansin ko lang naman, may skills naman kami during training, ang galing naman namin, kaya naman namin, pero bakit during competition nawawala siya? So, I'm just wondering, under psychology, ano kaya yung topic na possible mag-align doon sa aking curiosity? So, I asked my advisor. Saktong-sakto, advisor ko, professor namin before, Ma'am Azurin, she's part of the PSC, Philippine Sports Commission. She's considered a sports psychologist that time. Okay? So ngayon, siya yung naging advisor namin, siya rin yung tumulong sa amin. Sabi niya sa akin, check sports psychology. And then, try mong basahin yung mental toughness. So that's it. I already identified my topic. Para sa inyo, saan ka interesado? Interesado ka? Bakit mga tao somehow nasisilaw or naa-attract kapag kayong kumpanya ay kulay red and yellow? No? And then usually mapapansin mo yung mga color ng companies or yung mga products ay merong red and yellow. Usually may red yan. McDonald's may red. Jollibee may red. Ano pa bang may red? Okay? So, Kenny Rogers may red. Pizza Hut, may red. So, what specific branch under psychology possible pumasok ito? You know what? We have marketing psychology. We have marketing psychology. Kaya nga marami tayong graduates ang nag-excel actually sa marketing field eh. Yung mga nagbebenta ng lupa, marami tayong graduates na yumayaman doon. Okay? We have marketing field. So, yeah. Pwedeng ganun. Nasa marketing field yung mga colors eh. Mga colors. Kaya yung mga kumpanyang yan, before silang maglabas ng logo at ng color nila, nagko-consult muna sila actually sa experts. Kung ano yung attractive sa paningin ng mga tao. At doon nila i-align yan. Hindi lang sila basta-basta gumagawa ng Hindi sila basta-basta gumagawa lang ng business, kung ano gusto nilang ibenta. Of course, pinag-aaralan din nila yan. Okay? Because whether you like it or not, in everything we do, there is psychology. There is psychology in everything we do, no? Maglakad ka nga lang, there is psychology eh. May repetition yan eh. May thinking yan eh. Pumunta ka lang sa specific place, there is psychology behind that. Psychological reason. And there is also psychological impact. So meron sa lahat ng bagay. Kaya meaning to say, sa lahat ng curiosity mo, merong psychology. Sabi ko nga sa mga third year student ko na field methods in psychology, kabasta may tao sa field, merong psychology. Kasi psychology is the study of mental processes and human behavior. Nasa maritime field ka, there is psychology. Nasa industrial field ka, there is psychology. Nasa government, there is psychology. Sa school ka, there is psychology. As long as merong tao, there is always a psychology. So do not limit your study. Kung ano lang yung nakikita mo, you can go beyond outside the box. Masyado nyo kinukulong yung sarili ninyo kasi mas kinukuha nyo yung participants kasi mas malapit yung participants eh. You can go beyond that one. No? Sila ang research nila ay mga TNT na nasa Korea. They go beyond doon sa kanilang limitation. Meron tayong mga students na nag-study sexual process, sexual activity. They go beyond doon sa limitation lang nila o sa comfort nila. Mas na-enjoy ni Dr. Bliso kapag kakaiba yung study natin na hindi puro common na lang, no? So, identify that topic. At para magkaroon tayo ng mas malawak na understanding doon sa topic na gusto nating study, what you can do is to read more RRLs. Read more RRLs. It will help you actually to at least ma-enlighten ka, ma-elaborate pa yung idea mo to that particular topic. And first of all, yung curiosity mo can be now a central question that you would like to answer. And pag sinabi natin central question dito, actually this is the issue in our topic. That is the issue in our introduction. Remember, in our introduction, we have a pattern, TIOC, trends, issue to the trends, issue to the topic, kasi yung trends is your topic. After that, the objective, and followed by the contribution. That's the TIOC. Conceptualize. Okay, so that's the brainstorming part. Next is the design phase. Design phase is the planning phase. How are you going to collect data, or how are you going to conduct the study? Where are you going to conduct the study? Online? To this place? Kailangan ba is control ang place? And others. Who will be now your participants? Who are your participants? Basketball players, athletes, people who use social media, college students, senior high school, children, people who are diagnosed with these specific psychological disorders, mga seafarers, mga journalists, celebrities. Identify now who will be now your participants. When are you going to conduct your study? Tomorrow? Next month? Next week? Kailan mo ikakonduct yung study? Okay? So that's the design phase, and that is very important, especially in quantitative. Next, we have the empirical phase. Remember, after we plan, after planning phase, we can now go to collect data. So empirical phase, when we say empirical, experiential. Remember, natatandaan pa yung topic number 1 natin? Empirical is equivalent to experience. Because this is the time where the researchers need to collect data or information coming from the participants. Empirical phase, researchers must be equipped. Before you face your participants, always remember that you should know how to troubleshoot just in case that there are unexpected scenario na biglang pumasok. You have to bring everything, the materials that you'll be using, the tools that you are going to use. Of course, your attitude must be actually okay, no, in front of your participants, no? Your attitude, your behavior, the tools, and others. After collecting data, after empirical phase, now summarize, analyze, and go with the interpretation of the data. Discuss it, and have a conclusion. After the analytical phase, which is the most challenging part because what you need to do is to analyze the data. At mahirap mag-analyze ng data. Last would be dissemination phase. Remember, one of the reason why we are going to conduct research because we need to contribute to the society. Kaya nga tayo may contribution part eh. Kasi nakita natin that there is a need doon sa society natin, and we need to fill in yung need ng society natin. So dissemination phase is the part where we can share now the result to the population, to the whole population, or to the specific group of people. Okay? That is now the final manuscript. And that is the content. Are we clear with content? Again, when we say content, that is the research process. It starts with conceptualization, design phase, empirical phase, analytical phase, and dissemination phase. Can I have a thumbs up button if content is clear? Okay, thank you. Very good. May I know, guys, if you have questions? 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 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. If none, let's proceed to research manuscript. So, your final paper na isasubmit nyo sa akin, this will be the format. Okay? So, final paper output research study. So, we'll be using IMRAD format. Sir, si IMRAD po ba, saan po ba galing yan? Actually, nanggaling siya kay APA format, yung traditional. It's just that si Fatima, mas prefer niya gumamit ng IMRAD. Sino ba yung gumagamit ng IMRAD? UST gumagamit ng IMRAD. Ang UP, gamit nila sa undergrad nila is IMRAD. Kasi ang IMRAD format ay for publication format. Okay? Pag nag-APA ka kasi, pag nag-APA ka, Ateneo, alam ko gamit din nila ay IMRAD na rin. Okay? Pagka nag-APA ka kasi, which is the traditional format, ang nangyayari dito ay kapag ipapublish yung paper mo, kailangan mo pa siyang i-transfer or kailangan mo pa siyang i-revise to IMRAD. So si Fatima, para wala ng revision na ginaganap or ginagawa after. So proceed na tayo with IMRAD format. Okay? So mapapansin mo yung ating format, actually, pagdating kay research, medyo align siya sa mga university sa ibang school. Kasi si Doc Dino is a graduate of those university. Okay? And then siya din yung head natin. Okay? Kaya medyo laging na-approve at aligned yung paper natin with other university. And much better din naman at mas okay. Okay? So, that's IMRAD format kung bakit ayun yung ginagamit natin. And IMRAD format, meron siyang 6,000 to 9,000 words only. Kaya dito ang gamit natin is direct to the point. Compare with APA format, ang APA kasi wala siyang limit numbers. Okay? Wala siyang limitation of numbers when it comes to words. Pero pagdating kay IMRAD format, meron ka lang na 6,000 to 9,000 from chapter 1 or 1.0 to recommendation. Sorry, walang 6.0 dyan. So what is the meaning of IMRAD? So introduction, methodology, results, and discussion. And without and, okay lang naman. Okay? With or without and, okay lang. That's still IMRAD. Okay? So first, kay 1.0 is the introduction. Second is the literature review, part dito sa theoretical framework. Si research paradigm, stable of the problem, and variable discussion. Pagdating kay 3.0, this is the methodology, this is the planning phase. Part dito sa research design, research local, key informants or population and sampling. Meron tayo ditong research ethics, and dito si research instruments, data collection, and last would be the data analysis. Kay research, kay 4.0, this is the time where you can put the table and describe the table. And 5.0, what you need to do is to discuss the results, okay, of the study. Part ng discussion or 5.0 is the discussion, after the discussion, conclusion, and recommendation. Walang 6.0. Sorry, nagkamali ako dyan. Walang 6.0. Okay? So, are we clear with IMRAD? Can I have a thumbs up button if IMRAD is clear? All right. May I know, guys, if you have any questions? Questions? 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's proceed na. So now, how to formulate a research title? In formulating a research title, this is my tip. If that is quantitative, please identify in your title the IV and DV or the variables. Please include the variables together with the participants. That's it. Participants and variables, okay na yon. Kasi in IMRAD format, meron lang tayong 12 words. Pero kung gagamit tayo ng APA format, they will allow your title na magkaroon ng at least 17 to 18, no, 15 to 18 number of words or 17 or 18 maximum number of words. Okay? Pero kay IMRAD, 12 number of words lang tayo. Since limited lang siya, ang kailangan lang natin i-include dito, variables and the participants. Like for example, may research title before, team building activity on mental toughness. Team building activity. Parang ganyan lang siya. Team building activity on mental toughness. Direct kaagad tayo sa variable. Nakalagay nga dito sa number 5, oh, wag na kayong gumamit ng effect na term. Wag na kayong gumamit ng observation na term. Wag na kayo gumamit ng investigation na term. Wag na kayo gumamit ng study of the term. Sir, bakit po? Kasi napaka-low impact niya na. Impact of, wag yun na gamitin yan. Direct with your variable. Direct with team building, which is your independent variable, followed by the dependent variable. At kung mapapansin mo, sa pag-formulate natin ng title, actually, it's very easy to identify which one is independent and which one is not dependent, is the dependent variable. Kung mapapansin mo to, team building activity on mental toughness. Laging may mga clue, may mga cue kung ano yung susunod. After ng on is the dependent variable kasi ayun yung maapektuhan. After ng towards is the dependent variable kasi ayun yung maapektuhan. After ng to is the dependent variable kasi ayun yung maapektuhan. So meaning to say, prior to the word on, to, lead, towards, sila yung independent variable. May mga words tayo na pwedeng gamitin kay quantitative na somehow hindi natin gaano nakikita kay qualitative. Okay? So these are some of the tips pag nag-formulate tayo ng title. Next, easy to understand. Mas madali siyang intindihin kapag wala ka na gaano mga terminology na kung saan kinukuha na hindi naman siya actually connected. Okay? So again, my tip is just go direct to the point. Go with your independent variable, followed by the dependent variable, then participants. That's it. Then participants. So pwedeng gawin dyan, team building activity on mental toughness among athletes. Okay? Aggressionness, aggression behavior among college students on their level of intelligence. Medyo tricky yung ano niya, pero madali nating ma-identify which one is independent and which one is the dependent variable. No, hindi pala siyang aggression, no. Water, no. Gatorade Gatorade on the level of intelligence among college students. So Gatorade is the independent variable. Pwede kayong humanap ng terminology na kung saan pang psychological term kapag ka drink ang pinag-uusapan. And then next doon is the dependent variable, which is the level of intelligence, or pwedeng walang level, proceed with the intelligence among college students. So i-report mo yung participants rather than the results. So yung iba, gumagamit naman sila ng mga catchy word and then tutuldok. It's okay. Walang problema doon. Okay? As long as catchy word yung gagamitin natin. May mga nakita ko gumamit sa inyo nun. It is okay. But I highly suggest, revise your title, tanggalin nyo na yung mga low impact words, tanggalin nyo na yung mga effect, impact, observation, investigation, study on. Tanggalin nyo na yun. Mag-catchy word kayo, tutuldok, then proceed with the independent variable, followed by the dependent variable and others. Are we clear? Can I have a thumbs up button if that is clear? Okay. Sige. Again, 12 words lang yung kailangan natin dito. Max of 12 words. Sir, sa 12 words po ba included doon yung on, to, yes, included doon sa 12 words. Kaya you have to be careful. Yeah, Julia, sorry, may question ka?
Sir, paano po pag na-approve na po, papalitan po ulit namin yung title?
Napirmahan na niya?
Opo. Kakapasa ko lang po sa inyo kagabi.
Nagpasa ka na kagabi. Okay lang. Ganoon na lang muna sa 2, sa PT2. Pero kapag ka nagsulat na kayo ng chapter 1, 2, 3, i-revise nyo na lang yung title.
Okay po. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Huwag nyo na siyang i-revise ngayon kasi na-submit nyo na rin naman eh. Pero pagka nag-start na tayo with chapter 1, 2, 3, doon paki-revise na lang yung title, ha? Yeah, Angelica?
Sir, yung sa catchword po ba, kasama po siya sa bilang ng 12?
Yes, kasama siya.
Okay po. Thank you po.
Okay. So, pwede pa, sir, kung hindi pa po napirmahan. Yeah, pwede pa kung hindi pa napirmahan. Aware naman dyan sila yung mga fourth year. Ako rin naman yung kanilang expe. Ako rin yung expe nila, face-to-face pa kami nun. So, aware sila dyan kung paano mag-formulate ng title. Kaya nga nabanggit nila 'di ba sa inyo na as much as possible 12 maximum of words lang. Okay? So ako yung foundation nila ng quantitative eh. So aware sila doon pagka nag-submit kayo sa kanila, pwede baka may i-suggest sila pero pwede din naman na ganun gawin nila. Okay, sige. Let us continue. So number 7, ito yung pinaka-importante, no? As much as possible, report the subject of the research rather than the results. Do not report the results. Sir, paano pa mangyayari na mag-report ka ng result? Like for example, nagbasa ka ng RRL, nakakita ka doon ng result, ang nilagay mo ngayon sa title. Paano ka babasahin niya kung naglagay ka na kaagad doon sa title mo ng result? Ano ba ang babasahin ko sa loob kung expected ko na ito pala yung result? Di wala. Diba? So instead of reporting the result, just report the title. I just report that the participants. Sir, may pinagawa sa amin pang field methods po. Ano yung pang field methods na yun? Ano yung pinagawa?
Yung revision sheet po bago po nila i-approve. Pero sa amin lang pong mga under ng panel ni Mr. Bacorin tsaka Ma'am Busti.
Okay. Alam ko yon may pinapaginyasin. Though, kinonsult niya naman ako nun before kasi kinuha ko rin yan sa field methods eh. Sa field methods kasi, ang panel doon, isang psych graduate, isang student, saka faculty. Okay? Sa pag-approve ng title. Kasi yung title na ma-approve doon ay yun yung gagamitin nyo sa thesis 1, which ongoing ang thesis 1 ngayon, second semester. Thesis 2, data collection ang start nun by first semester of fourth year. Then second semester of fourth year, wala na kayong academics. No, meron kayong TCAP review for board, saka OJT na lang kayo. So ganun yung nangyayari. Yeah, pwede naman wala naman problema doon, Paul. Lahat naman 'yun sa hawak ni M. Kaya mas madali kapag hawak kayo ni Dan sa ni ni Pat kasi wala gaanong ganun si Pat saka si Dan. So sila Pat and Dan, diretso na kaagad approve 'yon kapag nakita nilang okay na yung paper. Okay? Sige, may question pa kayo pero are we clear with the title para lang medyo maayos ang title natin? Are we clear with the title? Can I have a thumbs up button if that is clear? Okay, very good. Thank you. So now, sa research problem natin, usually declarative ang nilalagay natin kapag ka-introduction. Remember, our issue, naka-declarative form siya. State the problem, that's our interrogative. So like for example, this is my issue in my study. Okay? Ginamit ko yan both sa college study ko at saka sa masteral ko. And even right now, nagagawa ko ng private research, dalawang private research, still gamit ko yung issue na yan. Kasi mas kinukuha ko yung different form pa ng mental toughness eh. So, hindi lang sa ganong part, pero may kinukuha pa akong ibang form. At ito pa rin yung aking research problem. Okay? So, declarative siya kapag ka-issue ang nilalagay natin sa introduction. Kapag ka naman interrogative, ayun yung statement of the problem natin. Sa interrogative natin, nakalagay siya sa chapter 2. Okay? So like for example, is there a significant difference between mental toughness and team building activity? Yan. So now, as simple as that can be your statement of the problem. And always remember ha, sinabi ko na sa inyo to, kapag mag-formulate tayo ng statement of the problem, kapag ka-quantitative, again, close-ended, it should be answerable by yes or no or numeric in nature. Okay? Kapag ka-qualitative, open-ended kasi kailangan i-elaborate yung sagot. Uulitin ko na naman yan ha. So, usually kapag ka naman quantitative, experimental, pwedeng ilagay dyan na, is there a significant impact or difference between the independent variable and the dependent variable? Pwede din naman mag-start with does. Does independent variable affects the dependent variable? Yung mga ganon. Are we clear? Binibigyan ko na kayo ng clue kung paano i-formulate, ha? So, baka pag nagbasa ako ng chapter 1, 2, 3 ninyo ay mawindang na naman ako, ha? Okay? So, pwede kayo mag-start ng is, does, kapag nag-formulate tayo ng statement of the problem kay experimental. Are we clear? So, you have to go back with your statistic classes sa pag-formulate ng statement of the problem. Okay? So we have the RRL. RRL is very important. Why? Because when we see RRL, that is an existing knowledge. Existing, so meaning to say tapos na siya. Existing meaning to say finish na, na-conduct na, may result na, may implication na. That's the reason kung bakit kailangan natin ng RRL kasi kailangan natin ng mga tapos para back upan yung ating paper. Sila yung mag-back up at gagawing strong yung paper natin or gagawing weak yung paper natin. Kaya siya importante. So what are the purpose of RRL? To identify clearly our problem of interest. Kaya nga 'di ba sa conceptualization phase, kapag ka medyo hindi pa medyo blur yung ating topic, what we can do is to RRLs para mas ma-identify natin yung ating topic. Questions or hypothesis. Yes, kasi in our literature or in our RRLs, articles, journals, ay may binabanggit sila doon. Sir, question lang po regarding po sa title, di na po ba i-include yung respondents? I-include yung respondents. Respondents ang results. Ayun yung number 7 dito. Ayun yung number 7. Report the subject, which is the participants or the respondents of the research rather than the results. Done?
Sir, paulit po, choppy po.
Guys, naririnig na ako? Naririnig na ako? Dash 2? Okay. Sorry, narinig mo yung sagot ko kanina, Angelica?
Sir, choppy po, di ko po naintindihan.
Okay. For the research, for your question, ang sabi sa number 7, report the subject, that is your participant or the respondents, rather than the result. So meaning to say, you have to include your participants. Okay?
Okay po, thank you po.
Thank you. Next. So, second dito is, second, we can improve our research question or hypothesis no kapag kumukuha tayo ng RRL. So, enables to discover what are known and unknown. Remember, during our brainstorming, hindi naman lahat ay naalam kaagad natin at na-discuss natin. So, what we can do is to read more RRLs para mas makakuha pa tayo ng information o makapag-gather pa tayo ng data at mas elaborate pa, mas ma-explain sa atin through RRLs yung variables na gusto nating study. And last would be, this is the source of information with regard to methodology. So like for example, no, I ask you, why 3 minutes yung gap between first session and second session? So you have to answer me na kay methodology. Kailangan mo ng RRL doon. So these are the common scenario no, pagdating sa defense. Why do you think applicable sa study mo na kuning participants si college students? Why not senior high school? Ano yung basis mo? So kailangan mo mabackupan ng RRL kung bakit ayun yung participants mo. Okay? So that is very important. So what is the process now of getting the RRL? So first, of course, you have to search the relevant articles. In Google, pagka ang topic mo is aggression, you may just type aggression. And then, read the specific article. And then, try to get a specific idea only from the article. Hindi buong idea, specific lang. Yung pinaka-importante at pinaka-malapit lang sa study mo. Of course, kapag kumukuha tayo ng idea coming from other people, for us to avoid plagiarism, we have to cite them properly. No, we have to acknowledge them through citation. So what is citation? Citation is both a signpost and acknowledgement. Signpost, so it signals the location of a source. As an acknowledgement, it reveals that you are indebted to the source. It also provides evidence that scholarly writing is done and your position is well researched. How about, sir, kapag ayaw ko mag-cite, ano pwede kong gawin? You may do paraphrasing. In paraphrasing, di ba may article ka nang binabasa? Read it repeatedly. Basahin mo siya ng paulit-ulit. And then, after that, set aside those words na alam mong may mga alternative words. Then, i-rewrite mo siya. Kapag ka-rewrite mo siya, of course, hindi lang dapat doon kasi you still need to acknowledge the author since hindi pa rin sa iyo galing yung idea. So you have to get the necessary information of your author. And then you may acknowledge them through on the part of the references part. Okay? So even naman kapag ka-nag-cite ka, kailangan mo kunin yung necessary information kasi part pa rin siya ng references at kailangan mo siya doon i-cite. So good example on how we do paraphrasing. Example, for a situational leader to be effective, he must strike the perfect balance between selling and telling. So for a situational leader to be successful, he should find the right balance between promotion and informing. First step, read the text several times. Then kapag na-intindihan mo siya, try to look for the alternative words that you know, that you think na may mga words dito na merong alternative one. So iset aside mo yung mga words na yun at ipalit mo. I-write mo siya ngayon. So for a situational leader to be effective, to be successful, he should strike, find perfect balance, right balance between promotion, selling, informing, telling. So, ang dali lang palang mag-paraphrase. Just set aside the words, look for alternative words, write it, and then acknowledge the author doon sa references part. Can I have a thumbs up button if this is clear? We do paraphrasing every time that we do not want to cite the author. Them, idea ay hindi galing sa atin. Now, these are some, pero marami pa. Some way on how we cite the idea coming from the other author. So we have the implicit, explicit, introductory. Implicit, statement, space, close and open parentheses, and then the author and the year. So example, e-learning, that's the statement, and then makikita mo sa dulo, close and open parentheses, nasa loob, si authors, comma, the year, then tuldok. What if, sir, the author is not available? You may put there, you may use the title of the article. Sir, paano kapag hindi title ng article, yung publishing company. Okay? The publishing company if hindi siya available. Pag hindi available yung author, again, publishing company. Okay? O kaya naman yung website. Pwede yon. Paano sir pag hindi available yung year? Pag hindi available yung year, you may put n.d. Small letter n. n.d. So ayan yung nilalagay natin kapag hindi available ang year. Okay? Pag hindi available yung author, you may put there the publishing company or the website of the where you get the article. Explicit, author, space, the year, close and open parentheses, space, verb here is the introductory word, as reported, as suggested, according to, according by, okay? And the statement. Like for example, the author, Taylor and Todd, close and open parentheses, nandoon ang year, suggested, reported, according, and statement. We have the introductory phase. Introductory, as suggested, as reported, according by, according to, then the authors, close and open parentheses, year, and the statement. Are we clear? These are some of our ways on how we cite properly our authors. Can I have a thumbs up button if this is clear? All right, very good. Thank you. Okay. So, now, paano tayo gagawa ng conceptual framework? Or what is conceptual framework? When we say conceptual framework, this is a graphical presentation rather of concepts under the study and existing relationship that between among these concepts. And remember, in our IMRAD format, we have theoretical framework. Meaning to say, ang root niya ay galing sa theory or model. Okay? Dapat nanggaling siya sa theory or model. So that's theoretical framework. Conceptual framework, ang example nito, this is also known as research paradigm. So ang root nito ay galing pa rin naman siya sa theory, yung basis niya, pero nag-formulate tayo ng sarili natin. So usually sa conceptual framework, ang example na ito ay input, process, output. That's an example of conceptual framework. See, input, process, output. Are you familiar with that one? Can I have a thumbs up button? That is the traditional way on how we put conceptual framework. Input, process, output. And aside from that, we still have a theoretical framework wherein yung theory na diniscuss natin, it will guide us on how we organize the data in terms of explaining, describing our data. Okay? So, developing a framework and a quantitative study. So, mag-focus tayo kay qualitative. Pagdating kay quantitative rather, always remember, napaka-importante ng arrow. Yung box, ang ibig sabihin niyan is variable. Variable yan. Okay, variable. Okay. Yung arrow, ibig niyan ay ito ay cost. Pero kapag ka naman ang arrow ay kabilaan, ang ibig sabihin naman yan ay relationship. Or relationship. Pero kapag ka one line lang, ang ibig sabihin pa rin yan is relationship. Okay? Sige. Clear ko lang konti ha. Clear my drawings. Now, pagdating kay experimental, paano ba tayo gumawa ng conceptual framework or ng research paradigm? Ganito lang siya kasimple. IV affects DV. That's it. And then, box na yan. Wala na anong pa dami-daming pang box, pa dami-daming arrow. Ganyan lang siya. Sir, bakit po hindi yung arrow dito kay IV? Bakit yung arrow ay na kay DV lang? Ang ibig sabihin yan, kapag kay interpret mo, si IV ang naka-apekto kay DV. Ngayon, kapag ka bumalik ito ngayon, hindi na siya correlation, hindi na siya cause and effect. Kapag bumalik yung arrow, first variable has a relationship to second variable. Second variable ay may relationship sa first variable. Kahit sir nakaline lang siya, yes. Si first variable ay may relationship kay second variable kasi bumabalik siya. Si second variable ay may relationship kay first variable. Ay kung titingnan mo to, hindi siya babalik. So meaning to say, one direction lang yan. Are we clear with that one? Sir, paano pag may extraneous variable or confounding variable? We do not include actually the error in our study. Kaya pagdating kay framework. Ang important conceptual framework na present ay yung variables only, na independent and dependent. Kapag ka-experimental, kapag ka naman correlational yan, as much as possible, the two dependent variables or the variables. Pero hindi na natin kailangan i-include dito sila extraneous variable. Hindi naman include kay conceptual framework. Okay? I hope that I answered that. Thank you. Are we clear now with conceptual framework or the research paradigm? Huwag ninyo. Gusto kong makita. Okay, ito lang gusto kong makita. So, we are almost done na. So, for the hypothesis, we study hypothesis before. Again, educated guess. That's our hypothesis. Our assumption. That's our hypothesis. So, there are different types of research hypothesis. We have the simple and the complex. Simple, one IV and one DV. Example, unemployment leads to higher incidence of crime. 2. After ng 2 is the dependent variable. Unemployment, meaning to say, is the independent variable, leads to, so meaning to say, unemployment affects now the incidence of crime to the specific location. Simple hypothesis, present dito, 1 IV and 1 DV. Now, we have the complex hypothesis. For complex hypothesis, present dito 2 or more IV or 2 or more DV. Hindi lang 1 and 1, pero 2 or more IV, 2 or more DV. Complex hypothesis is also known as multivariate hypothesis because of the presence of several variables. Example, illiteracy and employment leads to higher incidence of crime. So illiteracy and employment, there are independent variable because this too affects the incidence of crime to the specific location. Unemployment leads to higher incidence of crime and poverty. These two can be measured through statistics or through tools. So unemployment affects the crime to the specific location at the same time the poverty of that particular location. Are we clear on how we differentiate simple hypothesis and complex hypothesis? Can I have a thumbs up button if these are clear? All right, very good. Thank you. Now, we can now proceed to last na ata to, second to the last ata. Types of hypothesis, we have the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis, there is no relationship. Example, exposure to music does not affect. So there is no relationship. Research hypothesis, also known as alternative hypothesis or affirmative hypothesis, there is exposure to music affects the level of anxiety. Does not, null hypothesis, there is affects. So there is a relationship and no relationship. Are we all clear with null and research hypothesis? Can I have a thumbs up button if these are clear? All right, very good. This will be the last one. How can we now define our definition or terms? So you may use conceptual definition or operational definition. Always remember, conceptual definition came from an RRLs. Pagdating naman operational definition, these are researchers made definition. So meaning to say, you formulate your own definition based on how you understand. Are we clear? Can I have a thumbs up button if these are clear? All right, very good. So wag na muna yan, next week na yan. So we are done now. We are done now with the presentation or discussion of our quantitative overview. May I know, guys, if you have any questions or anything that you want to clarify? Yeah, Angelica, question?
Sir, sa sa definition of terms, ano po yung ilalagay sa manuscript? Yung conceptual po ba or yung operational?
Depende sa inyo kung anong gamit ninyo.
Okay po.
Kaya yung mag-identify nun.
Sige po, thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Any more questions?
Sir, required po ba laging merong conceptual framework?
Quantitative, yes. Importante. Pero kapag qualitative, hindi siya importante. Hindi tayo naglalagay kay qualitative. Kasi kay qualitative, remember, exploring kasi siya. So, hindi importante. Okay. I hope that is clear.
Thank you, sir.
Guys, paki-check yung chat box. Ayun ba yung pagkakasunod o ayun ba yung pagkakasunod ng binigay ko noong nakaraan? Ito yung groupings. Tama?
Sir, wala na po si Anobi.
Ay, okay. Wala na yung Ruby, no?
Opo, after Procesa po, matay yun.
So, 10 na lang. Okay. So, let's have the arrangement kung sino yung una magpe-present, pangalawa, pangatlo, and last. Joke lang dito. Okay? So presenter will be first presenter natin ay next week. We have 10, Mateo and group.
Yes po.
Experimenter next week. First experimenter next week. Ang i-experiment ninyo ay yung topic nila, Mateo. The group 6, Madayag a group. Third, mamaya i-discuss ko to one by one. Ginto. Ano yun? 5, Molina. 8, Oralio. 9, Datan. 10, Yanes. 20, Fuentes. 21, Gabriel. And Broquesa. Okay. So paki-check, ito yung arrangement natin pagdating sa this will be our presentation pagdating sa presentation and experimentation. Lahat ng even number will do the experimentation. Lahat ng odd number will do the presentation. Presentation, everything will be provided, the PowerPoint presentation. You may use some of the books under experimental psychology to elaborate more your understanding with the specific topic. Okay? So let's discuss. You'll be presenting next week the psychophysics part. Okay? Wait lang. Send ko na ngayon yung PowerPoint kasi ayoko makalimutan. Psychophysics. Psychophysics ito. Mateo. So done. Second group, Ginto. Ang ipepresent ninyo ay sensation and perception. Sensation, perception, Ginto. Ginto, ito. Colleen ba? Tama ba, Colleen? Colleen Ginto? Okay. Next, Oralio, ang ipapresent ninyo ay reaction time, reaction and attention and reaction time. And 9, Yanis, ang ipapresent ninyo ay conduct and learning. Ay, Yanis. Yanis, tama, Aliana? Ito? Nasa unahan? Who are the group member of Yanes? Baka ako maisend eh.
Sir, tama po yan. Lee of Fiona.
Okay. Thank you. And last would be Gabriel I, chapter 10, memory and forgetting. Gabriel, Ann, tama? Ay, sorry.
Hindi po. Marela po.
Mariela. Mariela.
Wala pong I, sir.
Mariela. Tama? Ito last.
Yung last po. Yes po.
Okay. Ayan. I-send ko na sa inyo. So ngayon, ang gagawin nyo ngayon is lahat ng nasa group, lahat ng nasa odd number, sila yung mag-top. Lahat even number, madayag, have to communicate mate para sa kasi formally an expectation related to sex. You have
Sir,
to
choppy po.
ito. How about this one? Clear na ako? Hello? Choppy pa rin?
Opo.
Clear? Choppy pa rin? Clear na?
Okay na po.
Okay. So, madayag, you have to communicate with Paul and group. Laman mo yung presentation related to sex.
Sir Chappy
So next,
po.
ang ngayon yung pacing natin.
Sir, nagchachabi po.
All right. Next, clear na ako? Choppy pa rin ba? Guys,
Mas okay na po.
mas okay na. Okay, thank you. Sige. So, ulitin ko. So, paulit-ulit na ako, no? Madayag, you have to communicate with Mateo para sa experimentation sa variables na pwede niyong gamitin for experimentation, ha? Pwede rin kayo mag-search ano yung pwedeng experimentation again through online lang tayo. And ngayon, madayag, ipepresent nyo yun next week after nila mag-present. Pero kailangan approve ko yan. So meaning to say, I am expecting your proposal at least next week Monday. Okay? Related to psychophysics. Para ma-approve ko muna siya. Same thing with Molina. You have to communicate with Ginto para sa perception variables at para makapag-formulate kayo ng experiment. And then Batan, you have to communicate with Oralio para makapag-present makuha niyo yung variables at makapag-present kayo ng experiment related to attention ata yan. Fuentes, you have to communicate with Yanis para sa conditioning and learning variables at makapag-formulate kayo ng experiment related to conditioning and learning. And Broquesa and group, you have to communicate with Gabriel para makapag-formulate kayo ng experiment related to attention and memory.
Sir, kami po,
Where you have to present. Yes, Paul?
Kami pong Mateo, gagawan po namin ng experimentation yung kina Broquesa. Tama po ba?
Hindi kayo. Wala kayong gagawin na experiment. Lahat ng nasa presentation part, presentation lang kayo. Lahat ng nasa experimental part, experiment lang kayo. Kaya yung PowerPoint presentation is sinend ko doon sa presenter lang. Okay?
Okay po.
Yeah, madayag question.
Sir, paano po yung participants namin?
Classmate lang ninyo. Kaya lang din. So, ang mangyayari niyan, ganito. So, next week, ang pacing muna natin, quiz muna tayo, and then give me at least 20 minutes to 30 minutes to discuss sampling. After this sampling, we'll be putting just give the
Choppy po kayo.
sa itong wifi na to. Wait lang ha, naiinis na ako sa wifi na to. Copy pa rin. Ano ba yan? Nakakainis. How about this one? Clear na ako. Sorry, naiinis na ako sa wifi na to.
Okay na po.
Okay na po.
Okay na po.
Okay na. Thank you. Guys, pero almost clear na rin naman yung question, no? Ay, yung gagawin natin, no? So, yung magiging pacing natin next week is quiz muna tayo. After ng quiz natin, mag-discuss lang ako ng mabilis related to sampling. After ko ma-discuss yung sampling, proceed tayo with the presentation. So for the first topic, that is psychophysics. Then after, it's to prepare online. So meaning to say, I'll be asked to leave the Zoom room except sa ating presenter. Okay? Which is the group 2. And then, babalik kayo ng Zoom after 15 minutes para naman para kayo yung maging participant. Now, for our experimenter, please identify the dependent variable. Please identify your objective at the same time the statement of the problem. Okay? Pagka na-collect nyo yung result, kailangan nyo i-release ngayon doon sa section ninyo. Kasi merong grupo na gagawa ng experiment, ay ng laboratory report. Okay? Hindi lahat ng group ay gagawa ng laboratory report. I-designate ko lang kung sino yung gagawa ng laboratory report for psychophysics, for perception, para hindi araw-araw may laboratory report kayo. Para din males yung activity ninyo or yung gagawin ninyo. Before, ang ginagawa ko, kada experiment, lahat ay may laboratory report. Pero ngayon, para males yung gagawin ninyo, mag-a-assign lang ako ng group na kung saan gagawa ng specific laboratory report. Ipe-present ko yung laboratory report by next week. Yeah, Julia, question?
Sir, yung yung experiment, recorded video na po yun, di ba?
Hindi. Live yon.
Ay, live. Paano po yun?
Paano yun? Paano yun? Eh di, on the spot, mag-ano kayo, live session dito, magkakonduct kayo ng experiment.
Okay. Thank you po.
Ganun pinapagawa ko. Magde-demo muna kayo, ang participant mo lang muna ay yung group members, and then, para lang makita ko kung tama yung process, kapag katama na yung process, i-approve ko na siya, and then pwede mo naman yun gawin on live during our experimentation time. That's the laboratory time, experimentation. So dito, expect ninyo talagang magla-laboratory time tayo. Okay? Expect ninyo na magla-laboratory time tayo dito. Questions? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Baal dumating? Hindi. Bautista dumating?
Here po, sir.
Buenamente Alan dumating? Alan? Neris dumating?
Present po.
Castro dumating? Crisali? Madayag?
Present po.
Mojica?
Present po.
Oralio?
Present po, sir.
Okay na lahat. So if you do not have any question, please prepare for a quiz by next week. No laboratory for today. Just take a rest. Have a great day to everyone. Just continue working with your performance task number 2 and see you all again by next week. Thank you and goodbye to all of
Thank you
you.
po.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you po.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you. Ups, wait para sa mga